And then moving more generally towards this amazing flow of people into Texas. You've seen it. I've seen it. I looked up the stats again recently, and it's still last year. If I'm getting this right, there were on average about 1,000 people moving to Texas every day. That may have slowed down a little bit in the last few months, but regardless, a lot of people coming into Texas. It's kind of a hot button topic for those that are already here. There are impacts on, we mentioned schools, impacts on housing that I see a lot in my profession, impacts on a number of services and areas of the economy, as well as a lot of good that is coming out of that growth as well. But where do you stand on, if elected, the state government? What is its role, if any, in alleviating or otherwise helping with some of these impacts that hit Texans that are already here? An example would be just having a lot of people coming from California, especially, who come in after cashing out in their house that is incredibly valuable, let's say $500,000 maybe, and they have a lot of money to spend here, and it shoots up house prices. Is there a role Texas legislature would play, if any, in your mind?
Okay, well, you're not talking about the 300,000 illegal immigrants that crossed our border
I'm
in
not.
December.
I'm talking
Okay,
about
that's a
the
lot.
moving around from places like California to Texas and the economic impact, both good and bad. It was a poorly worded question, probably, but yeah,
Okay, well, let's examine the root cause of these people coming to Texas. If I lived somewhere else, I'd come here as quick as I could get here.
sure.
And if they can survive in August, can become Texans. It's pretty hot in Texas, and in a free country, I don't believe that we ought to restrict people's rights of association, freedom of movement, freedom of choice of where they want to live.
Sure.
And housing and the American dream is something that I fought for my entire adult life. Um, I'm a home builder. We build homes and we build properties. And Texas is a prosperous state. And Sam Houston, once upon a time, said he believed it would grow until and hold 10 million people. Well, we've gone well past that. I don't know. I believe what we need to do in the legislature and make sure that we have really good standards, that the developments that occur follow the proper procedures.
Hmm.
I build in neighborhoods, and am subject to rigorous standards
Sure.
of performance and approvals and inspections. And sometimes I think they're excessive. As a matter of fact, I can point out where they're excessive and unfair. But I can also understand that we want quality. And I believe that's another characteristic that I can bring to the table in the Texas House. I know the rules, I know the economics. I fought for the people who want to buy homes, and I know how to get things done and make it better, not worse. The
Hmm.
problem in the legislature is there's often the rule of unintended consequences. What sounds like a great idea turns out to be a disaster. And of course, you
Yeah.
see it in California. The cost of a house in California is outrageous. And I was told, might have been yesterday or the day before, 47% of the cost of a house in California is due to excessive regulation. It was
Yeah.
87 permits required to build a house in California.
Oh.
People, I mean, and the people coming across our border to the south are fleeing those countries because corrupt governments, cartels, and
Hmm.
communists. And I believe Texas is right now seeing an important thing. Texas is the last great hope. And if Texas fails, so goes the nation. But today we're
Hmm.
standing up and we're doing those things that it takes to be a leader. 24 or 5 governors have joined with our governor to send a message that these are states and they're not to be trampled upon.
Hmm.
And so that's a long-winded answer to your question, but I think I think we're seeing a beginning of the end of this travesty.
Hmm.
So,
Okay. Kind of following along that line of question, since this is a largely rural district that you're hoping to represent, what are you hearing from your potential future constituents in terms of farmland? Are you hearing one of the big things related to what I mentioned earlier with a lot of people from California and elsewhere moving in is things like sprawl into the rural areas? Are you concerned in any way about the farmers, the ranchers, those that maybe there's not going to be the farmland in this rural district and it won't be a rural district anymore. Are you hearing that?
well, yes, I am. I hear a lot about that. As I mentioned, Sid Miller, the Texas Commissioner of Agriculture, is a good friend of mine. We've been friends for over 2 decades now,
Huh?
and he and I talk about it constantly. And protecting the farmers and ranchers from these Green New Deal ideas that come out of Washington and heavily subsidizing solar farms, for example,
Mm,
are consuming tens of thousands of acres of land, and they will not make economic sense. And eventually the subsidies will run out and they'll fail, and we'll have to clean them up. Somebody
mm,
will.
mhm.
And that's one issue that we hear a whole lot about. The second issue is foreign national governments and communists buying farmland. And we need to make sure that these enemies of America don't acquire our means of food and fiber production.
Are
And
we,
so I will be,
in your opinion, are we seeing that in this district? Have you heard of that at all? Because I've heard of it in other places around the state, but
well, I don't have a specific example to give you, but
mm,
it's here.
mm,
My company, we've never really had that problem because we sell to Texans and Americans. I do know it's occurring. I did hear about something of that up in Houston County, which is 2 counties away. It's
mm,
occurring, and it needs to be tightly regulated, if not totally banned. And the what you asked about earlier, urban encroachment, is occurring on the south perimeters of this district at a very big rate.
right.
1,000-acre subdivisions in South Grimes County. Southern
Yep.
Grimes County has become the Woodlands West, and it will continue. The growth of Houston and the growth of Texas has been constant for a long, long time and
Hmm.
will remain so. And I
Okay.
think as a state representative and a leader on private property rights and development in the Texas legislature, I feel certain that I can be a major contributor to providing protections, proper regulation, and organized growth. Um, so
Okay.
I look forward to that. It's going to be fun.